Since data visualization options in Google Analytics 4 are pretty limited, more and more users start using Looker Studio as well. Here you can connect Google Analytics 4, pull the data out of it, and display in various more flexible ways. But there are a lot of things to learn, and in this video, I will help you get started. If you are wondering why would you want to connect Google Analytics 4 to Looker Studio, here are some of the reasons. First of all, there are many more visualization options in Looker Studio than GA4, and I mean like much more. And since you can move around various tables and charts and other elements on your canvas, the results can be very different from what you can achieve with Google Analytics 4. While there are some options right now in Google Analytics explorations that cannot be easily recreated in Data Studio, in general, Looker Studio is much more flexible. By the way, you probably have already noticed that I sometimes say Google Data Studio instead of Looker Studio. Well, recently it was renamed to Looker Studio, and I just still did not have enough time to get used to that. So I will be using Google Data Studio and Looker Studio interchangeably throughout this video. Then the next reason is that Google Analytics 4 interface is very different from the previous versions. So for example, if you are working with a client who is used to Google Analytics 3, but they find really hard time using Google Analytics 4, maybe you could just build them a set of reports in Looker Studio where they can check the most common things that they are interested in, and that's it. So instead of them struggling with the GA4 interface, they could just open your ready-made reports, check what they need, and close the report. And one more reason is that Google Analytics 4 is missing some features. Some of them are not coming back if we compare the feature set to Universal Analytics, which is GA3, and some of those features can be replaced with Looker Studio. For example, there are no views in Google Analytics 4, but you could kinda replace them in Looker Studio with particular data control features where people can switch between different host names, different properties, and so on. So now let's take a look how you can get started with Looker Studio and Google Analytics 4, and then we will try to build a sample dashboard from there. To get started, go to datastudio.google.com. Maybe in the future Google will change the URL because of rebranding, but datastudio.google.com is the current URL. And here we can start with a blank report. And you will be asked to add data connectors to your report. Data connectors are basically ways how you can pull data from different sources to your Data Studio report. And Data Studio is not limited just to Google Analytics or Google Ads. You can also use a lot of other connectors that are available right here, and there are a lot of them. But in this tutorial, we will be focusing mainly on Google Analytics 4. So to know what surprise, you should click Google Analytics. And then here you will see a list of accounts to which you have access. In my case, I will be using the official Google Analytics 4 demo account, and I have access to it, and in fact, you can get access to it too. If you want to learn how to do that, then check the description of this video where I have a very quick tutorial explaining the steps. Here I will click the search icon and then enter demo, and I will select the demo account, and then I will need to select a Google Analytics 4 property. In this case, I will select this one because it actually is getting data from a real website where you can buy Google merch. So click this, then click add, then you will need to wait for a couple of moments, and that data source will be added to this particular report. And by default, it will already add one table right here, but we don't need that. So we will delete this, and instead we will build everything from scratch. In the end, a demo report that we are going to build might look something like this right here. Now let's take a quick overview of the interface. Let me just zoom out a bit. And here is the main canvas where you're going to add charts, tables, and other elements. And here on the right side, you have the data column where you see the data source right here, and then you can see, if you click on it, the expanded list of all the dimensions and metrics that you can use. A dimension is kind of like a description about something. For example, what is the city? What is the content type? What is the country? And metrics are usually numbers that let you count something. For example, how many conversions did you have? How many checkouts did your visitors do on your website? And so on. And then in this column, we will see settings related to a particular element that you add to the canvas. Here we have the main toolbar where we can add additional data sources, add elements. For example, if you click it, you will see various visualization methods. And then later in this tutorial, I will also explain how to do things like add controls. When you build a Looker Studio dashboard, you can include multiple pages in it. For example, one page could be the overview of your audience, like it was in Google Analytics. Then the second page could be related to your e-commerce performance, maybe top products. Then another page could include traffic overview and so on. Let's start with a basic widget that will show the total number of users. To do that, you can click Add Chart and then select Scorecard. You can either use a regular scorecard or scorecard with compact numbers, where instead of a lot of zeros, it will be shortened to K, which is thousands, or M, which is millions, and so on. So let's choose this one, and then you can either just click it and place it, or you can add it by drag and dropping like that. In that case, you can control the size of it, but since we're talking about scorecard, the final output looks the same. Anyway, so when you add a chart to the canvas, you can click it and then a bunch of settings will appear in this particular column. They're divided into a setup and style. So setup is responsible for the data, how it is displayed, what kind of data is displayed, and style is, well, responsible for the visual looks. Also, you can select the chart and then you can change its type by clicking right here, and then you can select something else. For example, maybe you want to change the scorecard to a time series chart. So you can just click it and then it will be changed. Now let's revert that and then let's take a look at the setup. So here is the data source, and this is the official Google Analytics 4 demo property from which I'm getting data. You can also do a thing called blend data, but this goes a bit out of scope of this tutorial because that's a bit more advanced. So I will not talk about that. But if in the future you copy this report and you want to, for example, change the data source, you can do that by clicking here and then selecting other data sources to which you have access. Then let's change the metric because my initial idea was to show the number of total users. That's why I will click here, not here, but here, and then I will select total users. To get the most out of Google Analytics 4 data in Data Studio, I would highly recommend that you first get familiar and you learn well the data model of Google Analytics 4. And the best way to do that is actually to play around with the interface of GA4 and configure various reports in order to see how the data is displayed. That will help you a lot, trust me. So now the number has changed because we changed the metric, but just by looking at this number, we cannot tell, like, is this good? Is this bad? We just see the number. So the best way to see if things are going well or not would be to add some comparison range where we could see, is it better than the previous period or not? And you can do that in this comparison date range section right here. You can click here and then select here and switch to previous period and then click apply. By default, this chart will be showing the last 28 days, but later in this video, I will show how to allow the users of this dashboard to change the date range by themselves. So now we have total users and we see that the percentage has increased by 2%. So it means that things are going fairly well. But imagine a situation where someone new and unfamiliar to this dashboard looks at this number. Will he or she know that this is data from the last 28 days? Well, probably not. In that case, what would be very helpful is to also write down right here the period that is being compared. So I could click style. And by the way, you can also switch between compact numbers right here. So as you can see, the number changes. And then you can uncheck this checkbox and it will tell you that this number is 2.2% higher from the previous 28 days. Sure, it adds more noise to the report, but also this is very useful because you know just by looking at this widget right here that this is the 28 days period. Even though we have this growth right here, we still don't know the trend. Maybe it was always going down, but then just recently started to recover, or maybe there are some ups and downs. So we don't know the trend, and we can actually easily see that by adding a different chart. So we have now two options. We can either add a chart and then we can add a thing called Sparkline chart, or we can copy this. So basically just Control C, Control V, or right click and copy and then paste. And then here I can just change the type of the chart. That way the sparkline will still be using the same metric, which is total users. So now select this one. It will just show the sparkline like this without any axis or legend or anything else. But in this case, I think maybe it would be better to not show the comparison, because now we have two sparklines right here. That's why I will just go to Setup, then scroll down to the comparison date range, click here and select None. Now hit Apply and you will see the trend. So now we see that on that particular day, there was some spike. So maybe this would later be worth to investigate further to understand why this particular spike happened. So now I can drag it closer to the scorecard. And this is the first group of data. In fact, you can select everything and hit on your keyboard Control G to group it, or just do the right click and then group. This makes it more convenient because now if you drag, you will then drag the entire block of these two elements. If you want to undo the change, then you can just click Control Z and that will return the previous state. Then you can do the same thing for sessions. So now if you click it, then you can do the copy and pasting. So Control C, Control V, drag it right here and change the metric from users to, let's say, sessions. So I can click here once on the group and then the second time to select a particular element of the group and then switch from total users to sessions. Then do the same thing right here. Then let's copy and include the number of e-commerce purchases, because this is an e-commerce website, so we definitely do have that data. Now let's change the metric from sessions to e-commerce purchases. Do the same thing in this sparkline. And then the final widget could be related to total revenue. So copy paste and change the metric to total revenue here and here, like that. Now we can align them and make sure that they fit in a single row like that. If they don't fit well, then you can select all of them and then drag them a bit like that. Maybe if you want, you can even resize that a bit like this. So now, even though we see that the number of total users has increased, the number of sessions declined, and we have serious decline in total revenue and e-commerce purchases. So this might be a red flag that something is incorrect, or maybe something is wrong. Maybe some marketing activities are not performing as well as they used to. So this should definitely be worth doing some further investigation. Let me just align those widgets better like that. To make these four widgets more visible, what you could do is that you can add a rectangle behind them and to add some soft shadow so that they would look like four separate widgets. And you can do that by selecting here and then inserting rectangle, or you can just click insert and then insert the rectangle right here. So let me start with this one and then I can just draw it like that. Its color is gray, so let's switch to the white color, and then you can also add shadow border. Now this element is on top of the widget, so if you want to put it behind that, you can click arrange and then order and send to back. In fact, I think maybe we can even make them a bit smaller. I mean these widgets, so we can do like that and resize them and then add some additional space between them. Now I will copy and paste the rectangle again, do the same thing here, then arrange and send to back, then one more time and one final time right here. Now I can select them like that and move them right here, and I see that two rectangles are not aligned well, so I will move them like that. Now let's build a table of the top channel groupings so that we could see which types of traffic sources are bringing the most revenue, the most sessions, most users, and so on. To do that, we can add another chart, which is just a table, and you can drag it and then do it like that in order to select the correct size. Now the default dimension here was date, but we want to take a look at the traffic sources. So you can click here and change to default channel grouping. In this case, it's session default channel grouping. Then I don't want to see these row numbers, so I could click style and then I can uncheck the row numbers. In this case, I'm showing 13 out of 13 channel groupings. So if I see all of them, maybe I could hide this pagination. So I can click it here, then style and hide pagination like that. Then I can also add some heading, which would make things a bit more visible. So I will move this a bit down and then I will insert text. So I can click here like that. And then we can enter channel groupings. I can highlight it, then make it bold by clicking here. I can also increase the font size to maybe 20. And I can also add some shadow to this particular table. So I can go to style while having selected this table and then click on add border shadow like that. I can also select the default sorting. So I can click right here. And while this metric is okay, I would like to see more. For example, I would like to see total users, the number of conversions maybe, the number of purchases, conversion rate, total revenue. And I can do that by adding more metrics in the metric section while I have this table selected. So I will click add metric and then I could select total users, click it, then add one more, which could be conversions, and click it, then add one more, which is e-commerce purchases. Then right now when I'm recording this video, conversion rate is not yet available as a metric, even though it is available in Google Analytics 4. I'm pretty sure that in the future, Google will add this to Looker Studio as well. But right now, we will skip this part, and later in this video, I will show you a workaround, how to see the session conversion rate. So let's skip the conversion rate and instead add the total revenue. Now I can resize these columns to make sure that I see the name of the column clearly, like that. And here I see the revenue. So what can we do to see the conversion rate as a workaround? Luckily, Looker Studio allows us to also include calculated metrics that are calculated right here on the spot. And you can do that by clicking add metric and then create field. Let's call this field conversion rate. And now we need to write a formula how that particular metric will be calculated. And in the context of e-commerce, the e-commerce conversion rate is calculated by dividing number of purchases by number of sessions. So we can enter e-commerce and then you will get the suggestion to include the e-commerce purchases, then divide it by sessions like that. And it is already included right here. And when you see the green check mark right here, it says that the syntax is valid. Also, I want this number to be displayed as a percentage. So I can click right here, then hover on numeric and then switch to percent. Click apply. And now this metric will be added to the report right here. In fact, I can rename this and you can do that by clicking here, not here, but here. And then you can name this to e-commerce conversion rate and then click apply. If you want to rearrange the metrics, you can just drag and drop them like that. So now I want to see it right here. And since the name of this metric is quite large, I will try to rearrange the columns. And it looks like this. So even though the largest traffic source is organic search, its conversion rate is above 1%. And I see that the email marketing converts better, almost 3 times better. So maybe the company should invest even more into email marketing. To make these widgets, and I mean table and sparklines and scorecards, to make them more visible, or actually to more stand out in the main report, we could change the background color of this dashboard right here. So to do that, click on theme and layout, then customize, and then select the report background to this light color or any color that you want. And I click that right here. Now I see that these 4 widgets are more visible. However, the background of this table is also gray. So I can click it right here, go to style and change the background to white like that. And now it's more visible. In this tutorial, I'm covering just the most common settings, but you should definitely spend more time to investigate other options because there are a lot of them in Looker Studio. Now let's add some additional controls, because right now, if I click view and share the report with others, they will just be able to see this kind of data. And well, the only thing that they could do when it comes to interactiveness, they could sort the table based on these metrics and this dimension, but that's it. But what if they wanted to see a different time period, not the last 28 days, but something else? Well, luckily in Google Data Studio, you can add some additional controls for those people. So let's switch back to the edit mode, and then I will move everything a bit lower like that. And then I should click add a control. So if you click here, you will find a bunch of different controls that you can add to the report. For example, let's say that I want to allow users to change the date range. That's why I will need to click this and then add it right here. I can resize this. And then if I click this, I could change the date range, let's say from to. So if I switch to, let's say September, and then this ends at the end of October, and then click apply, the comparison feature will also be updated, and it will be looking and will be comparing against the previous period that I have selected right here. Then let's not forget to match the style. So I will click here, click style, and then add the background, which is again white like that. Then there is another control which is useful if you are checking similar things across multiple properties of Google Analytics. So you can add a control, and that is data control. So here you can select different Google Analytics for properties, and you can switch between them, and the data here will be updated accordingly. So right now, if you click here, once that data control is added, you will see that all properties are of Universal Analytics. In the future, that will be changed, I guess, to the default of GA4. But right now, when I'm recording this video, you need to click here and then select the data set type from Universal Analytics to Google Analytics 4. And then from this moment, when you click here, the list of properties will be only of Google Analytics 4. Then again, match the style of the background, set it to white. Then another popular thing with Google Analytics 4 and the Looker Studio integration is that, well, Google Analytics 4 for free users, it does not have views. And a very popular use case for views is to see data of different host names. For example, you want to see the traffic only of the blog, or only of the main website, or maybe some other site, or maybe some other domain. So luckily, there is one way how you can do that, and you can add control and then select drop-down list. Then add it right here, resize it. And right now the default dimension is date, but you can change it to host name. Click it, then match the style. And then let's take a look how it works. So now if I click that drop down right here, I can, for example, select to show the data only of one host name, or maybe I want to see several values. And depending on what you choose right here, the data here will also be updated. The reason why I don't see any revenue, because right now I haven't selected the shop subdomain, and that's the place where all the sales are happening. Now I can select all of them, and then the data will be updated again. If you want to slice your data in a different way with different dimension, you can also add another drop down right here. So you can copy paste, then add it right here, and then select the dimension and set it to device category. So now you could, for example, check what is happening only on the shop and when the device category is only mobile. And then when you're done, you can click view to see the final result of this particular report. Obviously, you should do a better job than I did with the alignment, because right now it looks like some items are misaligned. But yeah, that requires some additional time. Also, you can add some branding, for example, logo. So to do that, you could first of all probably free up some space. So I will resize this. Then I could move everything down. And then I could add a logo right here. Obviously, don't look seriously at this design because it looks quite ugly. I'm not a designer, but I just want to show you several features. And obviously, if you have some design skills, then you can spend more time on style. So to add an image, which would be the logo, you could click to insert an image here or insert image right here. So I will add this. You can either upload it by URL or from computer. I will select this option. Then I will select this and open. It might take a while to load, but usually that happens pretty fast. And here's the logo. I can resize it a bit and then move it to the top here. You can add, if you want, some background for the header. If that also makes sense, you can do that with things like, rectangles. You can drag it like that. And then you can change the color to something. Right now, I will just select randomly anything like this. And then I can move it to the back. Well, it looks ugly, honestly, but yeah. Maybe I should replace this image with a white logo image. This looks slightly better, even though still not the best. Anyway, right now I can name this report to something like GA4 dashboard, click view, and here is that report. As I've said earlier, you can also add additional pages because maybe you're building some report that is analyzing different areas of the business or of your marketing. So you can click edit and then you can add a page. And then the second page will be added. So the first page could be named something like general overview of traffic. So you can click on 3 dots right here, rename, general overview of traffic. And then the second could be something like the overview of the audience, where you build a table or a chart of people who are using different device categories. They are coming from different countries, so you could see your top countries and so on. And then when those pages are configured, you will see them and you will be able to switch between them right here. And if you switch to the view mode, you will be able to see them right here. If you want, you can minimize the sidebar like this. When your report is ready, you can share it with others. So you can click the share button there, and then you can add email addresses of people who should get access to the report. They can view it or they can also edit it. Another useful thing is for companies, or actually for freelancers or agencies that work with companies and they want to send data, let's say weekly, for a CEO or someone else. So instead of manually sending the email, you can click here and schedule email delivery. And then you can configure that, let's say this report will be sent every week on Monday, 8 a.m. And then you click schedule. And for the end of this video, let me give you some additional advice, which is specific to Google Analytics 4 integration with Looker. So first of all, if you are sending various events to Google Analytics 4 and the data model of Google Analytics 4 is obviously quite flexible, all those events will be automatically available right here. However, there is a delay of data in GA4 in general. So if you want to see some data right here, you will probably need to wait 48 hours, or actually up to 48 hours after that data was collected by Google Analytics 4. Then with events, you can also send various parameters. Some of them can even be custom. So if you want to see custom parameters of GA4 in Data Studio, you have to register them first as custom dimensions. So you should go to Google Analytics, configure, then custom definitions, and then register those custom definitions here. So you will see the button create custom dimension somewhere right here, and you will need to create them. If you want to learn more about how to configure custom dimensions in GA4, then I will post a link to the description of this video to an additional resource. So after you create a dimension, it will not appear in real time. It will still need more time. You might need probably in the next day to find that dimension available in the list of all parameters, or actually all dimensions and metrics right here on the right sidebar. If after a while you still cannot find that dimension in this list right here, then you can go to Resource, Manage Added Data Sources, then click on the data source you're using, click Edit, and then click Refresh Fields. That might fetch the recent changes of the data source. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is filtering in Data Studio. Let's say that you're building a dashboard only about mobile traffic. So how can you set this particular widget to show the revenue only of the mobile devices if this data control right here is not available? Let me just delete it. So you can do that by clicking on the widget or on the report that you want to filter, and then you can click right here, and then you can add filter, and then you can name that filter, let's say mobile traffic. And then you can select that you want to include traffic, but only that traffic where device category equals to mobile. Then click save. And then this number will change. So this filter right now is applied to this particular element right here, while all other reports well, actually all other elements, they still use the unfiltered data. But if you have a lot of different elements on the same page and you want to apply the same filter, editing them one by one will not be convenient. That is why another option could be to set filter on the page level. So first let me quickly undo the filter from that widget. So I will remove the mobile traffic. And then you can set the filter on the page level, which means that it would apply for this entire page, but not for the page 2, or you can set the filter to apply to all pages. So the page level filter can be configured right here. You click page, then current page settings, and then add filter and you add the filter, or you can go to file and then report settings. So on the report level, you can set the filter right here, and then it will apply to all the pages of the same report. And that is how you can build your first Google Analytics 4 dashboard with Looker Studio. Now go and explore various settings there, because I was just scratching the surface in this video. There is so much more that you can do with Looker Studio. Remember, to benefit the most out of Google Analytics 4 and Looker integration, you should be very well familiar with the data structure of GA4. And to learn Google Analytics 4 properly, take a look at my GA4 course. I will post a link to it below the video. If you found this video useful, hit the thumbs up button below the video. That will help me understand what videos do you like and what should I create in the future. Also, if you want to learn more about Google Tag Manager or Google Analytics 4, then consider subscribing to this channel. My name is Julius, this is Analytics Mania, and I'll see you in the next video.